Welcome to the Rewrite Your Story with Tasha Joe podcast, where we fearlessly dive into the vast realm of thoughts, ideas, and conversations that know no bounds. Buckle up and prepare for a wild ride as we venture into uncharted territories and explore the unexplored. On this journey, we leave no stone unturned and no topic untouched. Tune in, fasten your seatbelt, and prepare for a roller coaster ride through the vast expanse of human curiosity. Get ready to be amazed, enlightened, and entertained, because on this podcast, there's only one rule. There are no rules. Hello, beautiful friends. Welcome back to part 3 with Austin Collins.
Hey, Tasha, thanks for having me back. So today is June 16th, and it is Father's Day. And so I just want to...
Happy Father's Day.
Happy Father's Day to all you bad mama jamas out there that have kids.
I've never heard that one before.
Actually, I think being a dad is a big deal. I'm a dad.
Absolutely.
I mean, if we all think back to when we were kids or junior high or high school, there's moments in our life that we were transformed by either our fathers or a father figure. And I think there's a lot to say about that kind of stuff. But first and foremost, I want to say happy Father's Day to my dad, Jeffrey Ostrom. He's out in the world somewhere right now. Actually, he's like right down the street. But Pops, I love you. We all love you. If you guys don't know, I think I shared this on one of the previous podcasts, but there's 6 of us brothers. And my Pops he's the man, and we love him. And so happy Father's Day, Pops. He's just retired from the shipyard.
Happy Father's Day, Jeff.
Yeah. A couple years ago, he retired. I think he did 34 years in the shipyard. Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's pretty cool to be able to be committed to a job that long and really serving his country. And before that, he did serve his country in the Air Force. So shout out to you, Pops, and happy Father's Day. We love you, and that's from all of your boys. We love you. Tasha, I'm pretty sure you have a dad.
I do.
What's his name?
Michael Thaler Henry.
Michael.
Happy Father's Day, Dad. He listens to all my episodes too, so.
Hey, happy Father's Day, Mike. You're the man.
Even though you
dude.
ditched me today, it's all good.
Showing up with your cutoff sleeves and dog.
Yeah, right?
Shows up with this massive dog on a chain and cutoff sleeve. I'm just kidding. The dog's like the tiniest little dog.
Little Yorkie. Yeah, my dad is known for cutoff sleeves, and no matter what sweatshirt I buy him, I got him a sweatshirt that said, "It's a Henry thing. You wouldn't understand." And he loves it, but he cut off the sleeves.
Yeah, because he's freaking yoked.
Yeah.
He's buff dude.
Yeah. But he's like, he looks that way, but he's like a teddy bear. He's like such a sweetheart,
Yeah, absolutely. And so with it being Father's Day,
Yes.
and I think we all have people in our lives that, like for me, I have my dad, but I also have a lot of other kind of father figures throughout my years growing up that had like a big influence in my life. So and I usually call them every Father's Day, and same thing on Mother's Day. I had especially on Mother's Day, I had a lot of awesome women and brave and women that helped raise me. And so same thing with the dads. There's a couple of them out there that helped mold and shape me into who I am today. And part of the reason why I believe I'm still here is because I had guidance and counseling that was wise.
Because of those women in your life.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because of the women and because of the men and the people in my lives. And so shout out to them, especially today on Father's Day, to all those guys out there. There's Todd Gaborio and there's David Gonzalez and there's a bunch of other, Steve Brown, Brandon's dad. These are men that set a tremendous example in my life and just pillars.
Yeah.
From the day I met them till right now.
Yeah.
And they're still pillars in my life. And so shout out to you guys, and I'm appreciative for them. So the last podcast we did, we kind of ended off talking a little bit about moving in towards the business arena and life after kind of getting my act together a little bit. And so I think we could resume there. And I think we kind of start off like talking about being a business owner and doing jujitsu and beneficial and changing. A big part of my transformation, I would say, earlier on, maybe, 6 years ago or so, was I started to read more, listen more, to read/listen to like audibles.
Yeah.
Right? So I would start to do that. I was listening to a lot of podcasts. So there was a lot of people and podcasts out there that I listened to that had a big influence. And I was able to learn a lot from that because, I was never a huge book reader.
Me neither.
Like growing up in school.
I hadn't read a book in like 10 years. Like literally never.
But you would never know though, because look
Yeah.
at all the information that you have. Look at
Oh
all the
yeah,
look
I've
at
been at it for the last 4 years, but before that I hadn't read a book since like high school when I had to.
yeah, exactly. It's like who
Yeah.
wants to read?
Yeah. But then
Well,
when you find something you're super passionate about,
yeah.
game over.
And I think there's something to be said about sitting down, and I love Audible, right?
Yeah.
I love listening to books. I love listening to podcasts, and that's really good because it's easy. You can do it while you're driving, you can do it while you're napping, while you're sleeping, before bed, when you
Yeah.
wake up, whatever it is, when you're in the shower, whatever,
Yeah.
right? But there's something to be said about intentionally sitting down and opening up a book and actually
Mhm.
start to read it. And then I think your mind takes a little bit more away
Yeah.
from whatever it is that you're putting in through your eyes and your mind. And because you're not listening to it, but your eyes are seeing it, and so you're interpreting it,
Yep.
and I think there's definitely something to be said about that. And so, but the transformation for my life started happening when I started doing those things. I started
Mhm.
reading books to educate myself on certain things. And usually it was like self-help slash things that other people did to benefit their lives that really worked for them, whether it be business related, life related, health related, that
Mhm.
kind of stuff. And there was a lot of those books, like a lot of the David Goggins and the
Yep.
Jocko Willinks and the Cam Haines and all these different like pretty prevalent authors that weren't authors before.
Yeah.
They
Mhm.
became authors because they realized the impact that they were having in people's lives around them. And then everybody's probably just saying, hey, you should probably write a book so more and more people can hear and
Yeah.
or listen to your book,
Yeah.
or read it or whatnot, and take away some of these like amazing stories that they have. And then usually these authors put it into a practical way to implement it in their lives. And that can be something. For me, it was very, very impactful because I remember I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast a lot, and I don't agree with everything that's said on any podcast. So
Yeah. But you take what resonates.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And even what doesn't too, because there's some things that maybe I don't necessarily agree with, but it puts me in a position where I have to think about it.
Yeah.
And it's changed my perspective on a lot of things about life because I don't ever want to be just so shut down and closed out that I'm not able to listen to other perspectives. And that has been probably the biggest change in my life, is that instead of having this closed fisted, one way, one direction look,
You're
uh,
open-minded.
yeah, you
Mhm.
want to remain open-minded and try and always think of whoever you're talking to or whatever you're learning, try and put yourself in their position or look at it
Mhm.
from a different angle, because if you don't, then you're going to remain the same.
Yep.
And the only way we grow is to try and put ourselves in uncomfortable
Try
positions,
new things.
try new things,
Mhm.
and then it's like continue to like reach out to areas that we do not understand.
Yep.
Right. And the only way to do that is to talk to people who do, who have lived it, been through it, and etc. Or just drop yourself in that shark tank full of whatever
That's
the
me.
arena is and figure out how to not get eaten,
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really, really important. And I learned that I would say the first way that, besides growing up playing sports, because that's really the first, I believe, unless you're in like some big Italian family with like 8 kids and you're just constantly being challenged by every single
Mhm.
sibling or parent or aunt or uncle, and you're constantly on your toes trying, there's a lot of those family elements out there where they have to deal with that. But for now, there's a lot of kids out there that aren't like that, and they're sheltered or they've never been challenged, and then they go and do something like football or wrestling or jujitsu or basketball. It doesn't matter, any sport early on, you're going to get challenged.
Yeah.
You're going to get pushed to your limits, and you're going to get pushed past the brink of whatever wall that you're facing. And if you have a good coach and you have good teammates, you'll break through that wall and you'll get to the
Mhm.
next level. And so I think for me, one thing was looking at podcasts, listening to them, and then actually not just like, turning the podcast off, but like actually thinking about it, maybe even writing notes down, or like just trying to do what somebody who was on there who went through this
Mhm.
amazing transformation, try and do what they actually said.
Yeah.
Or even a step further, go out, buy their book, read their book, listen to their life story, try to take away some points from that. And so I think that we have in the culture today, and I think it's safe to say that because of technology, we're getting farther and farther away from the personalized experience between people, and we're moving closer and closer towards technology taking the place of
Yeah, for sure.
really relationship. And that was something for me when, and anybody out there, if you guys are listening and you guys listen to podcasts or you watch, even for example, like a morning talk show or an evening talk show, or those are just kind of podcasts
Mm-hmm.
before podcasts.
Yeah.
And it's cool to watch. And the reason why those shows do so well is because you have two people or multiple people conversing about a subject or multiple subjects, their opinions on it. And people want to hear that. They
Yeah.
want to hear opinion and they want to see where other people resonate in certain subjects and topics. And that was something that I picked up along the way with podcasts, was because it's like I get to hear other people's perspectives and then I also get to learn from it.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have to go through it myself, even though, Tasha Joe, I've been through some situations in my
Yeah.
life where it's forced me to learn and adapt and adjust and overcome certain situations. And so we have the podcast dynamic, right? So I'm starting to listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm starting to read books and listen to books, and I'm starting to implement some of the things into my life. And then I even take it one step further and I start going to some leadership consulting and development seminars and things like that to try and better myself, because at that point in time, I'd started a business, right? And by the way, the business that I started is a general contracting company. And Tasha and I were briefly talking about this before we started recording, but I didn't really have that much skill in contracting.
Or a plan.
Or a
right?
plan.
Yeah.
It was just like work hard, be diligent,
Yeah.
like just take it seriously, do it the right way, and hope for the best, right?
That was me too. Take that leap of faith.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and you know, we were talking with Ryan Denny on the
Yeah.
phone, and he's going to be in here on this podcast
Yeah.
eventually, and he'll go into depth about all this stuff because he's a freaking genius when it comes to this type of stuff. But he used to tell me, he's like, one reason why you see a lot of people who don't start businesses, but they could be killer business owners or, you know, managers or whatever, is because the fear.
Yeah.
They're afraid of failure, but what people don't know is that failure actually culminates success, because you learn how to overcome it.
Mm-hmm.
And you learn that there is no success without failure.
Yeah.
Every single person that you see on TV, online, or whatever has been shot down, broke down, beat up, and picked themselves back up time and time again and overcome whatever circumstance that they're facing. And so we have this culture now where it's so easy to just like, I don't need to do that because, you know, technology, blah, blah, blah. There's not a personalized dynamic where it's like, I remember back in the day, Tasha Joe, and you probably remember this, but like when you were in elementary school, right?
Yeah.
When you were dating a young man named Austin Nebeker.
Oh my God.
And no big deal. Go Dolphins. And it's like my mom, I remember my brothers, like we would go out and play and my mom would be like, hey, just be back before dark.
Yeah.
There was no cell phones.
Yeah. No.
Like we didn't have a phone to call mom and
No.
check in. And another rule was if we were at another friend's house and like we couldn't hear her whistle, it would just be like, be back before dark.
Yeah.
And make sure that if I call their house, you know, they can get a hold of you somehow. Because if there is like, okay, if we were at our friend's house and we were playing out in the woods on 20 acres and we're out building forts and shooting freaking BB guns and doing all that stuff, like she needed to be able to call that house and then within like a half hour, have us come back and be able to call her and say, hey, we're good or whatever. And that rarely happened. She rarely did that. But if we were in our neighborhood or our area, wherever we were at, and we moved around a lot, she could whistle really, really loud. Like you could hear it from miles away. I'm not kidding. Like you could hear this whistle from miles away. And so we would be like out playing or doing whatever we're doing. And if you heard the whistle, you knew you had to get back to the house.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And the reason why I'm trying to paint that picture is because that's kind of the situation where we're at right now. It's like, instead of having to run all the way back to the house and check in and see what's going on or whatever, the time that it takes to do all that, the effort that it takes to do all that, and then also the trust involved between parents and children, allowing your children to go out and explore, and also trusting that they're going to come back when you whistle, right? There's all that stuff. But now it's like, okay, there's a cell phone. All she has to do is call.
Yeah.
And now you don't have to run the mile back or the half a mile back or however far you're away. You don't have to have the trust because you can just constantly call, and then so on and so forth. And the reason why I'm trying to like really, really dial down on that is because we have this culture that is so based around instant information instead of self-learning and self-taught, right? Even though it is self-taught and with YouTube, you can learn anything right now, right? There's no reason why there's not a single task on planet Earth that isn't on YouTube.
I know.
It's like, okay, you need to build a house from start to finish. YouTube. You want to cook a cake? YouTube. You want to fix a freaking, some sort of equipment? You want to learn how to play guitar? You want to learn how to bungee jump? You want to learn how to fight?
Everything's on YouTube.
Like, seriously, fight. You want to learn how to fight? Watch some jujitsu instructionals on YouTube. And then start practicing them in your living room. And you're going to become a savage over time, right? A lot of that happened during COVID. So I'll bring it back. So I started doing this kind of self-educating, self-learning of listening, reading, and trying to just better myself. And it's not that I didn't have the skill set, I just didn't have it sharpened. And so over time, I started sharpening, and I prepped myself for when the time came that I was successful. And I didn't know that I was doing that at the time. That's just how it worked out because, I started a general contracting business and I wanted to be a dirt work company. I never planned on subcontracting other companies out to come in and do this part of a job or do that part of a job. I had never imagined in a million years that we'd be staring down the barrel of two $1+ million jobs in the same year. And that's where we're at right now. And that's crazy to think about, And so, but it didn't start that way. It started with me starting a business because it was COVID. COVID hit. Everybody lost their jobs or got put on, unemployment or whatever. And I remember sitting in my house and I'm just thinking to myself, like, 3 months of this went by and I just couldn't do it anymore. I felt guilty. I felt for sitting around not doing anything. And meanwhile, people are taking SBA loans and they're getting free money from the government and all this. And everybody's like, ride the wave of unemployment. And I was sitting in my basement playing video games like, I just can't freaking do it anymore, And so I decided to take all the money that I had saved up, which was not a lot at the time. I think I had like $4,000 saved up. That was the most money I'd ever had in my life in a bank, And I had like $4,000 saved up and I used all that money to start the business. And by the way, I was driving a 1993 Cadillac Seville, purple.
Purple?
Yeah, it was a pimp mobile.
Cute.
A 1993 Cadillac Seville. You guys, go on your phones right now on Google and type in 1993 Cadillac Seville. And imagine you want to get some work done on your property and get like gravel put down on your driveway, right? And you want to get like, some dirt work done in the backyard and some clearing, and maybe you wanted to do this and do that. And you call Small Works Pro and I answer the phone. And I say, yeah, I'll be out there tomorrow to take a look. And I show up in a purple 1993 Cadillac Seville. What are you going to think?
My
like,
God. Yeah, no, totally.
Did I call the right place or what are we doing here? But I was able to because of the relationships that I had built and because of the time that I had spent prepping and learning, people wouldn't just forget about that. I would talk to them for a little while. People would forget about that. And then I would rent equipment. So I'd have equipment delivered and dropped off. But it wasn't that was very, very rare because most of the time I wasn't doing dirt work jobs. I was doing whatever jobs that I could do to fill the calendar, and that happened for probably about 4, maybe 5 months. And then I got a call from my brother one day. I mean, I remember cleaning gutters and picking up trash. I would go on Facebook and Craigslist and all this stuff, just trying to do whatever I could to just be working every day. It didn't matter what I was doing. I just knew that if I was going to be a business owner, I could not just sit around and wait for the business to come to me. I had to go out and hustle and get jobs. And it didn't matter what it was, whether I was mowing yards or I was doing landscaping or I was cleaning roofs or cleaning gutters, or we even moved a lady one day. We packed up all her stuff in a U-Haul, freaking helped her move down the road. And it was just like whatever we could do to just, fill the we were not too prideful to take any job, you know?
Yeah.
And so to not take any job, we took every single opportunity we could. And
Yeah.
I get a call from my brother one day and he's like, yeah, dude, I'm getting out of the army. You know, my brother spent like 15 or 16 years in the army and he went to war twice and all sorts of crazy stuff. And he's moving back home. So he comes back home, moves back home, and he's got this truck and I'm in a freaking Cadillac Seville. And so I, like every day I'd be asking him to borrow his truck. And I'm like, hey bro, can I borrow your truck again? It's like way better than having the Cadillac. And I couldn't afford to buy it. He's like, yeah, dude, for sure. And then after like 4 or 5 times of me borrowing the truck, he's like, dude, do you need any help? I'm like, actually, yeah, I do. And so Nick would start freaking coming to work with me. And then finally it just started. I was just like, yo, I probably should. Because Ryan used to tell me back in the day, he's like, because I used to ask him like, hey, what was one thing that you would do differently?
Yeah.
And he said, I would have done it with somebody else instead of doing it by myself. And he's like, at least in the beginning, like I would have tried to like have somebody else to balance or off balance the workload, because it's a lot to handle in the beginning when you're trying to figure, you know, this, Tasha Joe, that's a lot to balance, you know?
Yeah. And I did have a business partner. I don't know if you know that, but Alexa, and she handled all of the paperwork and getting everything we needed. And I was the one who did all the hands-on stuff. So I've thought about that so many times where I don't know if I'd be where I am if it wasn't for her doing that part. It
Yeah.
was nice to have somebody else.
Yeah, for sure. And same thing with Nick. It's like
Yeah.
the business would have never got to where it was at without him.
Yeah.
And then he went and started working for another company way later on down the road because he got a freaking awesome job offer. And it worked out really well, right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you have these family businesses where the dynamic is so touchy because of it being a family-owned business, and then you have fallout and fights and all this stuff. And Nick and I were never like that.
Yeah.
Even when he left, you know, we were on good terms. Like nothing ever changed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's just because we communicated with each other about stuff and we were honest about stuff. And we always communicated about everything. And so, but now he's back. He's back. He just came back last week and he's back on the squad. And it's because we have these massive jobs coming up. We needed somebody that I could trust to the highest extent to come in and help manage these jobs, because it's too much for one person, at least where we're at. And so of course I wanted Nick to come back because he knows the arena, he knows the people we're working with, and he knows the jobs, and he knows all this stuff, you know? And so it's been really nice already to have him back just in the last like couple weeks. And
I
so,
love yours and Nick's relationship. Like the bond you guys have is just super admirable. You guys have so much love and respect for each other, and you can just tell you guys just got each other.
yeah, well, I sent you those pictures today.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
'Cause I was thinking maybe Nick might come on, but then he had to go take care of some stuff, so he wasn't able to be here. But like, so I sent Tasha some pictures. I said, hey, here, pick whatever one you want. I think I said that. Did I say that?
I don't think so. You just sent me some pictures.
Okay, well, I forgot to say, here's some pictures for because, you know, you put a little picture on there or whatever. And so that's why I sent
Oh,
those.
that's what those were for. Okay.
Yeah. They were just like, so
I thought you were just going down memory lane or something. I was like, oh, cool. I
here's some
remember
random
that
pictures
little
of me and my brother. Yeah. So I sent her a picture of us at the gym. I sent her a picture of us at work. And then I sent her a picture of us as kids in Hawaii.
Yeah.
But that's like what you just described right there. We've been through every single situation in life you could possibly imagine between me, him, and the rest of our brothers. I don't think there's anything we haven't experienced, good or bad. I mean, pretty much everything. And so, but yeah, Nick came on and started working, and then he came on as an owner because it just made sense that way. And then I remember, and I'll tell this story. It was my job to find the work. Nick found jobs from time to time, but he really handled the daily operations. So making sure all the equipment was ready to go, making sure that the truck and the trailer and everything was just dialed in so that we could just go to work and come back. And then my job, I handled a lot of the financial stuff. Also worked. We both worked full time, right? On job sites, because it was just me and him at the time. But I handled like finding the work usually. I handled like the insurance stuff and the financial stuff and things like that, and job walks and all that stuff. And I remember we still weren't doing dirt work or even general contracting yet. Like, really, we were a general contractor, but we weren't doing any of that. We might as well have been like a freaking mom and pop, like Yeah. We were like a brother team that did like summer work if they were like off from college. We're like mowing lawns and like doing all sorts of whatever we could do.
Yeah.
And one day I remember seeing on, what was it, Facebook, work on Bainbridge or something like that. And there was this gal whose parents owned this large piece of property, and it was a parking lot, and there was a couple big stores on there, and I won't say the name just because I don't want to put them out there like that, but
Yeah.
they owned this big parking lot that they were getting ready to sell. And on the parking lot, she just wanted trash picked up. And she's like, on Facebook, she just says, "Hey, I need some trash picked up on this parking lot. Is there anybody available that can come out today and pick up some trash?" And I just happened to see it. And I was like, "We'll come out right now and we'll pick up trash." So me and Nick went and got trash bags, and we showed up and we walked around this parking lot for 3 hours, and we picked up trash and put them in trash bags, filled them up. And that was that. And then as she was getting ready to pay us at the end, I see this big pile of rubble, like concrete, just like there was some sort of structure that was demoed, but it was all concrete. And it was maybe 6 feet high by 15 feet long by 15 feet wide of just concrete. And she looked at us and she goes, "Do you know anybody who can get rid of this?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can. We can do
Yeah.
it." Because all we got to do is bring the machine out there. I would just load it up in the
Yeah.
trailer, and Nick would just run loads. He would come back. I would load him back up. Yeah, and we made freaking like $14,000 from doing that off of going and picking up trash in a parking lot.
Yeah.
Turned into like, I think it was like 11 or 14 grand worth of getting rid of concrete and some other stuff. And then that turned into another job where we went back to her
Yep.
house and we did a bunch of other stuff at her house and then her parents' house. So all in all, it went from like a $400 job of picking up trash, and it turned into, all in all, probably like 35 grand worth of gross,
Yeah.
gross dollar amount job,
Yeah.
right? But that just goes to show you, like, you never know who you're going to meet, how you're going to meet them, what will turn into what. And so that is just kind of like the dynamic of the business all the way up to where we're at right now, is just constantly meeting and growing. And if you can take your pride and ego and set it aside and just get after it, and just don't be too proud to take things that you think that you shouldn't have to do,
Yeah.
because eventually you're going to get to a point where you can pick and choose what you want to do.
Yep.
As long as you're disciplined up until that point, it's like, that's where we're at right now. We've been in business, I think 4 years, a little over 4 years, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
Because I think you said 5.
I'll be 5 in November.
Yeah. And I'll be 4 in July.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for a company that was picking up trash 3.5 years ago, like just walking around picking up trash, to a company that now is doing custom home builds for, we have one that's, and I'm saying this I'm not trying to like brag. I'm saying this
not
for
at
the
all.
specific purpose of like being diligent, disciplined, and have hard work, and have an open mind, and take your pride and your ego and stuff it down somewhere, and don't ever allow it to come up and bite you. It turns into, you look up 3.5 years later, and you're looking at custom home builds, and you're looking at federal jobs, and you're looking that we'll have by the end of this year, we'll probably have like, I think we'll be right around like $2 million in gross, I guess you could call it sales, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's a freaking big jump from, I think we did like $12,000 or $18,000 in our first year.
That's incredible.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
There's
and-
some cash jobs and stuff like that
Yeah.
too. But like, you go from 18 grand or something like that, and just constantly hustling to $2 million within 4 years.
And I think that's all because one of my favorite sayings is, it's about the being and not the doing, right? Like, you can do all you want, but it's about being who you are, how you're making other people feel. You were picking up trash, which led you to these other opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's happened so many times.
Yeah.
It's happened so many freaking times, Tasha, where we'll be doing a job that, like, it's just like, damn, this sucks. It's pouring down rain. We're doing this, or this.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember Nick and I one time, we were doing this job, and we just started really kind of moving into the dirt work realm, right?
Yeah.
And we're working out in Port Orchard, and we're doing, basically what we're doing is, there's a new house that got built, And there's these things called dispersion trenches. And so in Kitsap County, what they love to do now is make people spend money for no reason. And so they want you to just build these silly things called dispersion trenches. And what it does is it takes the water that comes off of your roof, goes down into your gutter, down into a drain, and then down into more drains and more drains and more drains. And then it comes out into this pit in the ground that we build, right? And this pit's got a rock and it's got wood and it's got pipes and it's got catch basins and it's all this stuff that has to be perfectly done so that the county can come out and say, okay, that's how it's. But the reason that they make us do it is so that when the water comes off your roof, goes through the drains or goes into your gutters, through the drains, and then into the dispersion trench, eventually the dispersion trench fills up and it allows the water to run out equally so that it doesn't cause like watermarks or flooding or running. It's kind of like they place it in an area where there's foliage and other brush so that when the water comes out and spills over, it runs down into area where there's greens and there's trees. And so that it allows the water to be just reused without it, kind of causing muddied areas and erosion and things like that. And we're doing that job, and the job, we were doing it for very cheap. The first probably year 2 was like a big learning curve for us because we started learning all the different civil engineering stuff. And we got very fortunate to get linked up with a company called BCS Development. Shout out Sean and Bill. They're the best in the world. We love those guys. They're like freaking uncles, like huge business mentors who are uncles almost. Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, Bill actually went to school with all my uncles. So he knows my whole family. And then Sean, these guys are awesome. And so they taught us so much about not just the dirt industry, but business in general. Yeah. And Bill was kind of like what Nick did, which is like the operations side of thing. And Sean was kind of like what I did, and he did the back end stuff. And so we were able to both just like really learn a lot from them. We were able to help each other because they got so busy. They're like, hey, we need help kind of turning some of this work over because we don't necessarily have the workforce to do it. And so Nick and I would come in for kind of a discounted rate, and they would teach us how to do this stuff. And then we would also get paid to do it. So we were getting paid to learn.
Yeah, I was just going to say
which is crazy to do when you own your own business. It's like backwards. You're not supposed to do that. It's like most people who start a business, they've already been doing whatever it is that they've been doing. Let's say you're a glazer, right? And you're in the glazers, you set windows in high rises, right? And you've been doing that for probably 10, 15 years. And then one day you're like, you know what? Screw this. I want to start my own business. I know how all this stuff works. And you know how it all works. You already have the contacts and you know how to do everything. And you go start your glazing business and install windows and doors or whatever.
Some people, but not all people. Because like me, it was just, my journey was never part of my plan. It was literally one day, snap of the finger, I'm going to start my business. I don't know what the hell I'm doing or how I'm going to do it, but I know this is what I'm meant to do, Yeah. So it's different for everybody. And I was just going to ask you, like, what's your advice for people out there who are in that position of wanting to start their own business, but they don't know how to go about it? Because for me, I say, go for it. If your gut's telling you this is your purpose, because I can speak from my own experience, you don't need to know the how or the when. All you need to know is the what and the why. If your what and your why are so powerful, let the universe figure out the what and the when. That's my advice. But for you, what would that be?
So I would probably say the same thing, but I would just say it a little bit differently. Okay. I would say, if you're going to start a business, make sure it's doing something that at
you
the
love,
very least, that you don't mind getting up for every day.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It should be something you're passionate about. That brings you joy.
100%.
Yeah.
Like
or go work a 9 to 5. Like, that's my theory on it. Like, do something you love, or you can work anywhere.
Yeah. And like, that was something for me. I was like, I started kind of working and operating a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I really like to operate these big machines, and it's kind of fun, and I can have my headphones in, and I don't have to, do all these things. Little did I know that that's like 10% of the job. As a business owner, I got to do a billion other things at once. You're working all these hours and you're not getting paid for most of them, And so people don't see that though.
Yeah,
no.
Unless you're an entrepreneur, you really don't know.
And anybody who's out there and is a business owner, it doesn't matter what business you own or run, you understand that basically for every 8 hours that you put in doing whatever job you're doing, there's at least 1 or 2 hours of paperwork and BS
Yeah.
behind it that you have to
Yep.
take care of.
Yeah.
And maybe even more
Yeah.
sometimes, especially if you're learning taxes. It's like, oh, okay, there's sales. Everybody knows
Oh, I'm
sales
still
tax.
learning all that.
Yeah. Well, I think
4.5 years
for
later, I'm
sure.
like,
Well,
what? What
so
does
am
that
I.
mean?
So am I, because
Yeah.
I'm learning even the more. Okay, you have LLC, and then you have S corp, and then you have corporated, incorporated. You have
Mm-hmm.
all these different tax columns and breaks, and how to navigate just the
All of
whole
it.
system.
Yeah,
There's just so much to all of it, and it's just so much to try and take in
for
that,
sure.
but at the very minimal level, you have to understand, hey, there's taxes, there's business insurance.
There's so many things, but I remember the one thing that did it for me, and this contributed to it because there were several things, but this one hit home for me. I remember, I think I got on Instagram and I saw a quote, and it was like, and with my personality and my drive and who I am as a person, it was, you can either work for a boss for the rest of your life or you can be your own boss. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, hell no. Like, I'm going to be my own boss.
Yeah.
And that was a game changer for me.
Yeah, because if we as people get to the point where you're able to be your own boss.
Yeah,
I'm
and
able
that's not for everybody. Some people, and
No,
sorry,
some
guys, if I'm stuffed up, I'm still recovering from a cold. So I sound a little stuffy.
Hey, I believe this, that if you're passionate, just like you
Yeah.
said about what you're doing, then it's eventually at some point in time, it doesn't matter what it is. If you're passionate about it and you have the drive, you will figure it out.
I'll work 48 hours, 72 hours. I
Yeah.
love what I do. And people are like, you're always here. And I'm like, it doesn't feel like work because I enjoy it. And
Yeah.
I work hard, but
It's
yeah.
like when you see those TV shows, like, whether it's like an old school show like Cheers,
Yeah.
or you see like, Seinfeld is kind of a bad example, but just TV shows where it's like based around some sort of a job site or something
Yeah.
like that, like The Office,
Yeah.
right? Or
Yep.
or these other things. And it's like, it makes me think about that. It's like, that's very true, to where it's like those people probably didn't mind their jobs, or at the very least, they didn't mind. They liked being around the people that they were around,
Yeah.
and they liked clocking in or clocking out, or they liked being a manager, or all these things. But I'll say this, that if you are devoted to whatever it is that you love, whether you're making widget spinners or freaking, what are those things called? The things that they used to spin, they have like little things. I think they're just called,
Spinner or
I don't know, widgets,
yeah, maybe.
something.
I don't know.
Anyway, it doesn't matter if you're making freaking candy,
Yeah.
you're making Laffy Taffy, or
Mhm.
you're freaking, doing the mystic movement thing where you have a trillion things
Yeah.
going in one shot, which I don't know how you do that, by the way. It's
I
like
don't either.
so much stuff in there, and it's
I
like,
know.
there's this room
But it
and this room.
started because of my purpose. Like, I knew how much it had changed my life when I started my spiritual journey and how much I was evolving. And I'm like, more people need to know about this. I
Yeah.
felt like I was discovering the secrets of the universe that I'm like, I have to share this with people.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
And that's really cool, because think
But I was
about
like, what is this?
think about how
How am I going to make
passionate.
money doing this? I literally talked about this in my first episode. I'm like, all right, universe, am I meant to do this? What the fuck is it? And I pulled a card and it was like, yes. And I was like, what is this? And then I made that choice. Okay, I'm going forward. And then it just all kind of came to me.
Yeah, and I think, to go back to your original question, because you guys, I tend to get off.
Oh, me
freaking
too.
ADD to the max. She's like, ask me a question, and I end up down 18 different
Me too.
rabbit trails. But
Yeah.
but Tasha does a good job at like kindly bringing me back, to reality. So, but I would say this, at the very least, make it something that you don't mind doing.
Sets your soul on fire. Not even just don't mind
No,
doing, but I encourage people like, what sets your soul on fire and go after that.
100%.
Yeah.
I don't think that operating set my soul on fire. Like,
No, but the freedom does maybe.
it does.
You
It
know, there's
did.
different ways to
It
look
did.
at it.
It did. But what I found out was that as I continued to grow as an individual, because being a business owner forces you to, you will either sink or swim very
Yep.
fastly.
Yep.
And if you are swimming, you're gonna you realize how much you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And that never changes, by the way.
I know.
There's always gonna be somebody that knows more, that looks better, that has faster cars or, a bigger house or all that stuff. And it's the same way in business.
Yeah.
But the key to having all those things, which you and I really don't give a shit
Yeah.
about,
No.
but the key to like having all those things, most of those people don't really care about those things.
No.
They care about like the process to getting those
Yep.
things. What is it that I'm learning and growing and developing and culminating in the culture of my work and the people that
Yep.
are around me, and learning how to develop employees? Because before you know it, you got to start hiring some people. You
Yep.
know this, Tasha
Yep.
Joe. You got a gang of employee or people
Yep.
that in there that are, doing their thing, and they're doing massage and they're doing Reiki, and you guys have avocado, and then you guys have jewelry in there, and then you have,
Mhm.
acupuncture and cupping and so on and so forth. And it's like, you got to actually know all that stuff. You know what I mean? And
But just I learn as I go, and that's why I do monthly meetings where we all get together. And I made that like a valid point. Like, hey, I want everybody here. My number one rule is everybody has to do trades with everybody. I need everybody to be familiar with everybody's services so you know how to vouch for people and explain. And every time I'm like, hey, I'll send out a group text. Is everybody caught up with these sessions? And not only that, but like, all my people are constantly giving out energy, healing, and taking care of people. So I need my people to be on top and have their energy levels full. You need to be receiving it as much as you're giving it.
100%. And actually on Rogan, I know I reference Rogan a lot, but the
Yeah.
reason why I do is
No,
because the
it's good.
guy's freaking smart, man.
Yeah.
And it's not like he just like was born a genius.
Yeah.
He's no Elon Musk,
Yeah.
right? I'm not saying Elon was born. And Elon, if you're listening right now, I'm just kidding.
Good.
But it's not like he was born a genius.
Yeah.
But he has over 2,200 podcast episodes, and he's had many geniuses on his podcast.
Yeah.
And he's had many great athletes on his
Yeah.
podcast. And he's had many great entrepreneurs on his podcast.
Mhm.
And over probably, if you think 2,200 episodes times 3 hours, because every single podcast he does is at least 3 hours, right around there. How many hours is that? It's a lot.
Yeah.
And so you got to think that over time you are going to not just develop this understanding for life on a broader scale, but he's had yogis on there.
Yeah.
He's had Christians. He's had atheists. He's had people who are extremely spiritual within also paranormal stuff.
Yeah.
Christians on there. He's had just some of the greatest athletes the world's ever known. People who do wingsuit and bungee jumping and all
Yeah.
these things. And you can only retain so much stuff,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
making a point to what you just said, which is his biggest thing was he's a comedian.
Yeah.
And out of all the things that he does really well, UFC commentator, comedian, all these things, he says, I would pick comedy. But the one thing that he helped spearhead the culture change was back in the day, he used to say comedians used to step on each other's neck to rise to the top. Like there would be people who were stealing jokes, and it's like people who are friends that are like almost wishing bad intentions on people so that they can achieve a higher level of success and get a
Yeah.
TV show or get a special on Netflix or whatever these things are. And then he said it like came to him one day, and this was a long, long time ago. He's like, that's so selfish and just like, that's not the right way to go about doing it. And so what he started doing was he started promoting everybody and like you just said, putting out like good vibes and good energy, promoting and not being selfish and like jealous, but actually bringing everybody on his podcast and just start like promoting everybody and saying, hey, you guys haven't read this book, go check this book out. Hey, I'm bringing my comedian friend on.
Yeah.
He's really funny. You guys should go watch his special, go see him live, all these things. And before you know it, now what do they say? The rising tide causes all boats to elevate, right? And so it's like, same thing with what you're saying with your shop. It's like, if you have a culture where everybody loves everybody and everybody treats each other like family and has each other's back, then you're going to see everybody elevate. Instead, imagine if your shop had a culture where it was like, and I'm going to make up names because I don't want to use real names, but
Yeah.
it's like, okay, Susie over here, she does this thing. Susie does massage. But then Tori over here does like acupuncture and cupping and kind of like kind of massage. And they kind of don't like each other because they kind of step on each other's toes because they kind of are in the similar arena a little bit, right? Which could not be, it wouldn't be good for the shop. It wouldn't be good for either of them. And eventually there could be a fallout or, a dispute or whatever. But
That's why that's my number one rule, no matter what renter I bring on board or even artists. I've got over 140 artists. That's the first thing I say to them. There is no competition here. I will have 10 vendors who all make clay items or candles. The right person will be drawn to your item. I've had 3 Reiki healers, and they all support each other and pass their clients on to each other.
Yep.
There's no competition.
And that's, honestly, I don't think there could be a more important portion of business.
Yeah.
And I'm not just talking about being a business owner, and that in life in general.
Yeah.
If you lift the people up around you
Yep.
rather than sit back and judge what they're doing and say, well, if he would have just done this or she could have done that instead, and this and this and that, instead of just like taking a look in the mirror and understanding that none of us are perfect. And the best thing we could possibly do, which we just on the last podcast is one of the last kind of topics we talked about, which is invest in other people. If you just invest in other people, and I mean relationships, being intentional when you're talking to somebody and like actually trying to grow as an individual, which I don't think anybody's perfect at. I'm surely not.
Yeah.
But if that's the culture in your industry or business or the direct people that are immediately affecting your life or your lifestyle, you're going to see a massive amount of growth, a massive amount of healing, a massive amount of financial gain, a massive amount of fill in the freaking blank. But
I mean, we have a crystal shop. I don't know if you know this, but right across the street from us, next to Horse and Cow.
I don't know.
You didn't know that?
No, I would never know.
Oh, it's
because
called,
everybody goes to your shop.
Well, it's called Avery Mysticals, and they were there. I used to go there to get my crystals because when I started my spiritual journey and I'm on the ferry ride home, I'm Googling crystal shops in Bremerton. I'm like, what? There's a crystal shop in Bremerton on 4th Street. And so I used to go there, and I know her, Anna, the owner, and, I send people to her. She sends people to me. There's no competition. If I don't have what people are looking for, I'm like, hey, go across the street. They probably have it.
Yeah, and that's a great attitude to have. And that's the same thing with, like, I was telling you about Bill and Sean and me and Nick.
Yeah.
And we have a group of contractors and, like, people, and, like, same thing with Ryan. He was talking to you about Vibe Coworks.
Yeah.
It's the same energy. People go to a place to share information, help each other, network.
We're all in it together.
And nobody's trying to freaking one up or one over or do just honestly, like, immature ways of thinking does not get you far.
No.
Like living for the moment in business or even friendship, family, any of that stuff, and just making snap decisions on things because of selfish thoughts or intuition, it can really do some major damage right away and later on down the road. And so getting back on track with what we were talking about is like, do something that you love.
Yeah.
If you can do something that you love, you can't go wrong. Even if it doesn't make you a lot of money and you need to supplement, do it iteratively. So it's like, keep your job and maybe let your boss know, hey, can we cut down my hours like 10 hours a week? Because I'm doing, and then maybe you're making whatever it is. You're making freaking notebooks over here.
Yeah.
You're making whatever it is that you're making on the side. And then slowly over the next year, you start working less and less at your job, and you start working more and more as the business owner instead of just jumping from one ship to the other. We did that where we just jumped into the freaking ship.
Oh my God.
And started rolling as fast as we can. We're just rolling, hoping that a storm doesn't come and freaking sink our ship, right? But
that's entrepreneur life, up and down, up and down. But it's so fucking worth it.
Yeah, it's
worth it. Oh my God, it's so worth it.
It's freaking. I couldn't tell you how many life lessons, working through problems, dealing with like our business. And I know you guys have a good reputation there. Like, I haven't heard anything about your business at all. In fact, I've only heard great things, right?
5 stars.
Yeah. Well, I was joking about this with Nick the other day, but we don't have any reviews.
What? Okay, get on and we will put the info down below.
I don't push them though. And the reason why I don't even bring them up at all is because like,
but it's not pushing them. It's just people they're busy, they're doing whatever. But if you say, hey, can you leave a review? Well, anybody would be happy to.
Absolutely, 100%. And the goat of getting reviews is freaking Ryan Denny. And I'm not even saying he never even did it in a way that was like he was just trying to get reviews.
Yeah.
I know, and he used to do, and Ryan, I hope you're okay with me sharing this stuff because it's kind of like, just some gangster stuff. Because I used to work for Ryan. He's my buddy. He does a lot of networking stuff. And we talked about it in a podcast or two ago. But entrepreneur to the max. And I used to, when I worked for him, the way he would get reviews is he would just, when we were done doing a job, he would just straight up ask the customer, hey, if you guys don't mind, just go on Google or go on Facebook, leave us a straightforward review.
Yeah.
Please don't leave us anything that is not truthful just to make us look good. Just leave us a straightforward review and we will be very, very happy to have that review regardless of what it says.
Because think about it. How often I look at reviews all the time when I'm going to purchase something.
Sure.
Don't you?
It depends on what it is, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like if something only has like 12 reviews.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of expensive, I'm not going to buy it.
See?
Right?
That's why reviews are important.
But I will say, as far as service-based industry goes, like I won't just hire a company that I don't have some sort of a tie with.
Yeah.
But that's because I'm in that industry, right? I know, and we grew up here.
Yeah.
So I pretty much know all the contractors almost in every single type little subcategory.
Yeah.
But like for us, most of our jobs now come off of referrals.
Yeah.
And that kind of takes away because we have such a good reputation. And even there's been a couple jobs. I could think of maybe 2 or 3 in the last 4 years where something hasn't been exactly perfect, but I would lose all the profit and even pay money to fix the problem immediately. And the reason why that is because I understood at the very beginning, there's 2 things that you cannot freaking mess up in business. One is taxes.
Yeah.
You have to pay your taxes. And you have to be diligent financially on all fronts, right?
Yeah.
Finances and taxes. The second thing is reputation. Reputation will take your business and put it down the toilet faster than anything else. If you do not have a strong, sound reputation and a really, really good understanding of what it is to run a business that is that cares more about the individual that you're doing the work for than the money that you collect when you're done. And if you can understand that and actually live that, you're going to freaking fly high, you know? And so we have, as we're like making our way through, so basically going back towards, okay, hey, the business got started. My brother came on, moving forward, you know, I was in the Cadillac and my brother let me use his truck, so on and so forth. And now we're looking down the barrel of like, okay, we have some real opportunity ahead of us. So we're looking down the barrel of actually like, what does it look like to be a real business? Because at this point, we're just faking the funk, trying really hard, doing whatever we can to reach whatever level that we're on's pinnacle so that we can try and level up and then continue to move forward. And being a family owned business can be tough, you know, because finances get involved and you're not just being a business owner, you guys, is tough. Okay. But it's tough in a good way because it's constantly challenging you. It's challenging the way that you think. It's challenging your thought process. It's challenging your finances. It's challenging your marriage or your friendships or your family dynamic or all of that stuff. But one big thing is that I notice more so than anything is when you start to have people that rely on you. And I don't mean you, us, right? Because that's not what it is. We're a team. And that's another thing is like, keep it a team mentality rather than I'm the boss and you're the employee or you're the worker.
I don't treat any of my people like that.
Me either.
We do not use boss. Nothing.
Nope. And that's how it is with us too. It's like, I would never, ever want to make somebody feel like they're less than me.
That was my number one rule.
In fact, it should be the opposite.
Absolutely.
I should be elevating them to a position where they feel like they're above me because truly they are, because without them, we're not shit. We are not shit. We don't have shit. We're not doing shit without the people who surround us and support us.
100%.
And so that's one thing that I noticed big time was if the people that are around us need the business, I'll say that. Right? We all rely on the business at this point. I might have been the one to start it. But we all rely on it the same way. And we all play our roles. And so I started realizing the responsibility of making sure that this mechanism, this machine continues to be functioning and continues to be just something that we can rely on a daily basis to provide for our families, to provide for our needs, to provide for whatever it is that we're doing in life, you know. And you got people that work for you or with you that have large families and they have a lot of kids, or they have multiple, all these different things and dynamics going on. And it's like, you start thinking about that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Start thinking about like, man, these people depend on this business to
Yeah.
provide for their families. They need to pay their mortgage. They need to pay their bills. They got food that they got to put on the table when they get home tonight
Yeah.
for their kids. Same thing with me. Same thing with my brother. Same thing with the people. And it's so crazy, Tasha. And it's actually not crazy at all. But like all the people that were there in the beginning with me, they're there with me right now. The ones that stuck around. And I mean and I say on and off the court, right? Because it's kind of like a sports saying, but really it's like on and off the field of work.
Yeah.
Whether you're going through a hard time in life or a hard time in business, some people leave and you're going to deal with that. People are going to leave, and people are going to say things about you that are not true. And most of the time they don't have all the information and they're judging and they're whatever it is that they're doing. Let them do it.
Yep.
Let them do it.
That's why I have "let them" tattooed on me.
All the people that we have in our lives,
Mhm.
especially the ones that have stuck around. And I have people in my life like Kevin and my brother and some close friends and family that have stuck around. And there's a lot of people that left, even the people that I thought would never leave, the people who said that they would never leave. And where are they? And then, but here we are on the precipice of like what the world would call financial success.
Yeah.
Like the business is literally less than 30 days away from having its biggest financial success ever.
Yeah.
Like on an amount that is freaking crazy.
That's
right?
so awesome.
And it's like, but guess what?
Do you take that time to like stop and recognize that and feel proud?
Yes. And you know
Good.
why I do that and how I do that? I'll tell you right now. I told everybody that is still around, my close family and friends, that, and I think I told you this, but in August,
Yeah.
it's my nephew Jaden's. So Jaden just graduated yesterday from
Yep.
Central Kitsap High School, class of 2024, and I'm super proud of him because he went through, and I won't share a whole lot because this is his story, right? But he went through a time in his early high school that his grades weren't great, and he was going through a rough time with school, which kids, I mean, they had to go through, it's such a weird time for kids to be with school and stuff. And then I remember sitting down with him one night. My brother called me. He's like, hey man, your nephew's struggling. You want to come over here and talk to him with me? And I did. And then boom, like a couple months later, he went from not doing good in school at all, like flunking, to straight A's. Wow. And then he carried that out pretty much throughout high school. And he had like a 3.0 grade point average, or he graduated with a 3.2. Wow. And it's like, how, like, I'm just trying to say I'm so proud of him because I got to watch him graduate yesterday, and that made me a very, very proud.
But what about you?
What's that?
Like just feeling proud of like where you are to where you are now.
Yeah. So actually, and that's going to roll into that.
Okay.
So the way that I celebrate that and I look at that, and I make it into something physical. So instead of it just being something that I think about, which is really good. And it's like, well, I'm really proud of myself, and I'm proud of what the business has accomplished, and like, just kind of meditate on that, I guess.
Physical.
I make it a physical thing. So I say, guess what we're doing in August? My nephew has his orientation because he just graduated high school. He has his college orientation for University of Hawaii on the 21st of August. So I said, I'm taking everybody who is involved in these last like big jobs, especially the one that we're getting ready to start. Yeah. Which is like 15 people. Yeah. And then even a couple more than that. And I'm flying everybody out to Hawaii, and we're all going to have a 7-day vacation out in Hawaii together as a family. And that's what we're going to do. I've already got it all planned out. And one of the guys that works with us, Kevin, shout out Kevin Dickens. That's my brother right there. And he's been wanting to spread his parents' ashes in Oahu for years and years and years. And he hasn't been able to. I think they passed away 5-10 years ago, something like that. And he hasn't been able to do it yet just because he's busy and he's got a lot of kids and he's always working to provide. And I said, dude, we're going to freaking Oahu. Bring the whole family, And so that's the celebration. Yeah. That's the physical. So you take this success that is financial and all these things, but what better way to take it and make it into something that is not just a team building experience, but it's a
Yeah.
family building. It's a culture
And a
building.
lifetime memory that you always have too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so imagine like we get to go from working our butts off for the last 4 years, right? And then the people along the way that came and never left, you know, people who came and never left, even though things maybe got hard or whatever, and they're still around. Those people are they're getting big bonus checks. They're going to Hawaii.
Yeah.
And they're not going to pay for a single freaking thing.
Yeah.
The business is going to take care of all that. It's going to take care of our families. It's going to take care of our friends who are still, putting in the work and the effort and never gave up on the business, never gave up on the idea.
And that's one thing that's so important that I'm guilty of, that I don't do enough. And I'm lucky I have, so many people in my life that like slow me down. They're like, Tosh, stop, take a minute. Because it's so easy for us to set goals, and it's that adrenaline of reaching that goal.
Yeah.
But then once we do, then it's on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Not taking the time to be like, wow, I actually got here. It's like, okay, what's next? And I am very guilty of that. Where, one of my best friends, Nick, he was like, Tosh, I need you to stop and like just go outside and look at what you've built. Look at what you're providing and all these people. And I'm so grateful I have people like that in my life, because we do. It's just the rush, keep going. But yeah, I have slowed down, but that is very important.
Yeah, and it's like learn who good people are too. It's
Yeah.
like you can't keep everybody, because some people are gonna
No.
cheat and steal and lie and do these things in business that can cause you're just like,
Oh, I've gotten good at closing doors. That's easy for me now.
yeah, not me so much, but I've learned
But I
that
can
along
help
the
you
way.
with
But
that, yeah.
look at like, okay, you met Melissa, the bookkeeper,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
She's a person where you get a freaking unicorn like her
Yeah.
who comes along and is just a stellar bookkeeper.
Yeah.
And not just a bookkeeper, but she's a stellar individual who understands. She'll listen to the dynamic of your business,
Yep.
all the different moving parts and elements that have to play. And then she helps you cultivate like the best bookkeeping financial experience possible for
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
And she's done it with me, and she's trustworthy.
Yeah.
Those are the people that you want to not just keep around, but you want to elevate and tell them how much you appreciate them all the time, so that they know that you're appreciative of them.
Oh, yeah.
Because
I tell my people all the time, I'm so grateful for you. Like, I'm very good at expressing that, but I am very grateful that I have been manifesting more people in my life. Like, I'm super excited to meet with Ryan, Melissa, because I feel like I've always been that person that I've hung out with people where I'm constantly the motivator, pushing them, like just, being that person where I don't have enough people in my life like that to do that for me.
yeah, and those people that you're doing that for other people a lot, right?
Yeah.
You're doing that for a lot. You're telling
Yeah.
them, hey, I really appreciate it. And it's genuine. When you get to a place where you're genuinely like thankful for the people in your life, you're in a
Yeah.
freaking great place.
Yeah. Oh,
Because
yeah.
you're just like, first of all, I love my people, right?
Yeah.
I love my brother. I love Kevin. I love all these guys, Bill and Sean, and the people that have been around in these instances and these moments as far as the business side of
Yeah.
things go. And then even outside of business, there's a lot of stuff that I haven't shared on here, but like that there's been mentorship in certain areas and like them doing things that normally other contractors wouldn't do for each other.
Yeah.
And what that's done is built a tremendous amount of trust.
Yeah.
Right? You trust your people.
Yep.
So then you can start to kind of like dabble in areas that you normally wouldn't. And then
Mhm.
all of a sudden, boom, massive opportunities pop up. And then when massive opportunities you're able to share that with them.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
that's what's happening with these jobs that we have coming up. And so it's like very, very important that we take the time to go back to your original question. Is like, how do you kind of like, do you take the time to really sit back and be like, wow, this is awesome. Celebrate whatever it is, success-wise or
For yourself, because I'm
Yes.
very good at like expressing that to my team all the time. They know it. I say it to them. I text it all the time. But for myself to sit down, that's what I was asking for
Yeah.
you. Like,
Yeah, and the way that I've always, and this is just how, and we talked about this earlier a little bit, but like the way that my family has always been very, we share everything,
yeah,
even with people that aren't necessarily our family.
yeah,
But like, once you're a part of our family, like Kevin is a part of our family.
yeah,
Kevin's a part of our freaking family now. And so it's like, once you get that into that trust, not that we're the family to be a part of, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying like, that's just how it naturally works. We were raised to share everything with each other. And love each other. And so my favorite thing to do is share things with the people that I love
Yep.
and I care about. And so taking a moment for myself, the best way that I can do that is to share it with the people closest to
Yeah.
me. And that brings me the most joy. So instead of me going and like buying like, I don't know, whatever it is I want to buy, which sometimes, there's things that I'll buy,
Yeah.
like a pair of shoes or,
I knew you were going to say that.
or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, it's been a dream of mine to take my friends and family one day to Hawaii and not have anybody have to spend any money.
Mm-hmm.
They can just go, show up to the airport, have all their food and spending money and their planes and their housing and their whatever it is, it's all covered and paid for. And all they have to do is show up and
Yep.
enjoy the time with the people that they care about.
Yeah.
Because that's
That's so
that's a big thing. If you think about it, you go on a vacation and you're worried about money and I can't spend this or do that. Imagine going on a vacation with the people you love the most. And you don't have to worry about anything. You just,
Yeah.
all you got to do is focus on spending time with the people you care about.
And just enjoying yourself.
That's what life's about.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm doing that, is because I'm going to be in Hawaii and I'm going to be in just it's just, you're surrounded by love and in a place where it's magical,
Yeah.
right? And so
Because that's what life's about. It's
yeah.
not about the hustle and the grind. And like, yeah, you have to, work hard and whatnot, but it's so different. I don't even know how to explain it. It's so different.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they're two different like avenues, but when you can learn how to like balance them properly, there's like a coexistence that
Yeah.
creates this like beautiful realm.
Yeah.
And if you get to experience that, it's like it's just it's something different,
Yep.
and that's I think what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally. Totes my goes.
Totes my goats. So I
Totes
think
my
we should
goats.
probably wrap it up. Huh?
Yeah, I think we're on like an hour and okay. So Austin, what would be your advice to anybody out there who is either one looking to start their own business and they're like super confident, they know that that's what they want to do, but don't even know how to do it, or I don't know, what's just your business advice?
I got a couple of them.
Go for
and
it.
they won't even take that long, I promise.
Perfect.
Only about 30 minutes. Okay. First thing is we already talked about, do something that you love doing at the very least.
Yep.
Something that you don't mind waking up for
Yep.
in the morning. Something that you could do forever.
Yep.
Okay. The second thing is surround yourself with people who actually like doing what they do, that's in the same arena that you, and learn from them.
You are who you hang out with.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yep.
And do that. Find a way to network with people who know more than you.
Yeah.
And then also find a way to make yourself valuable.
I crave that. Like, I'm like, I need more knowledge junkies in my life. Because
Yeah.
I'm over here just like, oh, big time
And knowledge
junkie.
now is so easy to get
Yeah.
because it's like there's YouTube, there's TED Talks, there's podcasts, there's Spotify, there's
But it
iTunes.
takes finding something you're passionate about. Because like back in school, you couldn't get me to pick up a book, nothing, until I found something I was super passionate about. And then I was just all in.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, for me, and I know for you, it's people.
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
people. That's us.
Connections.
And if you can find that love for people within the whatever it is that you're doing, you will freaking win, I promise you.
Yeah.
Virgin Airlines, right? Virgin Phone, Virgin whatever, the guy that runs that business, he said, if you focus on taking care of your employees and make that your main goal, he goes, your employees will take care of you.
Yeah.
And even on a grander scale, learn how to take care of people for the right reasons, the unselfish reasons, and because it's the right thing to do.
But you have to take care of yourself first in order to take care of other people.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't go out and like, try and send everybody to Hawaii. Meanwhile, I'm like $40,000 in debt.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's a financial
Yeah.
reference, but that's also a spiritual thing too,
Yeah.
or a mental thing. Like
Yep.
if I'm not in a good mental place, who am I to go out and give
Yeah.
advice to,
Yeah.
all employees or people that I work
Yeah.
with? I'm not in that place. In fact, it should be the opposite, where I should be able to go to these people and they and them help me with
Yeah.
whatever I'm going through. So you have that. So you have, do something that you love to do, be around people that know whatever it is that you're doing better than you do. And then even more so, educate yourself.
Yes.
And I would say
Knowledge is
I would say
power.
the third thing is never give up and be consistent.
Mm-hmm.
Never give up and be consistent. If you show up every day and you figure out a way to be working at whatever it is that you're doing, even if it's not the exact thing that you want to do, but it's working towards the goal of being self-employed, helping the people around you and building yourself up and the people around you up. And just be consistent, whatever it is you're doing, whether you're doing a podcast like Tasha Joe, and she's been doing a podcast every week for the last 27 weeks, right?
Bi-weekly. Mm-hmm.
Oh, bi-weekly?
Yeah.
So every other week for the
Yeah.
last basically 2 years?
No, I just started in November.
Oh, so that's 2 a month.
Yeah.
2 a
But
month.
I've thrown in bonus ones and
Okay,
stuff. So
gotcha.
I started November 1st, I think, and this is episode 28.
Okay,
So.
still, but that's definitely being
Yeah,
consistent.
yeah.
That's even more. It's like under delivering
Yeah.
or under promising, over delivering. You know,
Mhm.
and that's an awesome thing.
And it's something I enjoy. I've always been a people person, and I love communication. I love good conversation. I love good energy. And so this is something I love doing.
Yeah. And you could tell you love doing
Yeah.
it. You know, it's like you could tell in your voice. And I've
Yeah.
listened to some of your other episodes, and they're really good. And it takes time to get good at this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and
But you just got to go for it.
you got to go
gotta
for it.
get
And that's
over
the
the
other
fear.
thing. That's the last thing I was gonna say.
Yeah. Just do
Take
it.
that fear and freaking wrap that thing up in a freaking towel, light it on fire, and flush it down the toilet or launch it into the freaking atmosphere. Get it away from
Yes.
your life.
Shout out to Nike, because that's the perfect, just fucking do it. Seriously
Nike.
though, like literally they came up with the perfect phrase of just do it.
Yeah, you got to just go get after it. And
Just
don't let anybody
it.
tell you, don't let anybody tell you no. Don't let anybody tell
Yeah.
you that what you're doing isn't the right choice. If you are passionate about it and it's what you want to do, go out and get it
And
done.
yeah, and that's the one thing I struggled with, and not even struggled, but I had to push through, because you're gonna have people like Derek and I talked about in our episode, outwitting the devil. Every new level is a new devil. You're gonna have people when you're fucking expanding. You're gonna have those people who are trying to pull you down because they're not vibrating at the same frequency as you are. But I promise you, you just have to push through. You're gonna have the people who go against you and whatnot, and just, oh God, I could talk about that forever, but
Yeah.
I think we're wrapping up on
Yeah,
like one
absolutely. But
before.
think about it this way too. It's like, okay, well, there's a lot of dynamic involved with life. You got physical, you got moral, you got spiritual, you got freaking
Emotional.
all of it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
When you're, and most people don't understand this because they've either played a sport or they go to the gym or whatever. But in order to have growth in your muscles, you got to have a couple things. Well, you got to be hydrated, number
Yeah.
one. Number two, you got to eat. You got to have
Yeah.
nutrition, and you got to have sustenance to feed
Yep.
your body. But probably nutrition is the first important thing.
Yep.
And hydration, one and the same. But you cannot have growth without pain. Like
Yeah.
you got to go in there and work your ass off in the gym, break that muscle tissue down so that there can be growth that comes
Yeah.
after it.
yeah,
You know, and you got to continue to work hard and feed your mind, feed your spirit, feed your heart, feed the people around you.
yeah.
Do all those things and then watch what happens.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And until next time.
Well, thank you so much, Austin, for part 3. And what's
Yeah.
going to be our next podcast episode?
I don't know. I think we could probably finish up with some business stuff maybe, or we
Yeah.
can go into, I really want to talk about more about like I really like the self-help stuff.
Yeah.
So I want
Oh,
to
me
talk
too.
about my jujitsu journey
Oh, yeah.
and like my MMA
Maybe we should
journey.
do a poll. I was doing polls
Yeah,
for
do
a
that.
while,
Do
and
that.
give me 4 different options,
Yeah.
and we'll ask the people what they want to hear about, and then we will deliver.
I really, if you guys, what I would really like to do is I want to get in here with my brother, Nick.
Yes.
He was a master fitness trainer in the Army. So they sent him to school to train
Yeah.
and do all that stuff to make sure that he was, training. Anyway, he can share all that stuff, but he does my nutrition, my dieting, nutrition, and strength and conditioning.
Yep.
And then a friend of mine, Zane, who's a freaking savage, he's my MMA coach. And so I'd really like to get them in
Yeah.
here. And if we could have 4 microphones
Mhm.
and we could talk about not just kind of their journeys on how they got into things, but like, and then wrap it all into one, big old burrito of
Yeah.
what the future looks like and how they put together my training and stuff like that, because it's not just about the fight. It's
Yeah.
about
The
It's about
all
life.
Of it. All of it.
It's about life.
All of it. Yep. So we will do a poll.
Okay.
We'll come up with like 4 different topics.
Are we
or
talking like
kinda-
a light pole or like a what kind of poll are
I
we
do
talking
polls
about?
on Instagram saying, hey, A, B, C, or D, like
Okay.
the main focus.
Just
and then
making sure.
everybody gives comments of what and they've been a huge hit. So yeah, we'll do a poll. So
Sounds good. You guys better hit up the polls. right.
All right. We
It's
will
voting season.
see you all soon.
Bye.